It's a thin line, and because this is uncharted territories, we don't know where that line is. Because one, he's an agent. Forget the LeBron part. He's an agent, and he's openly talking about possible trades for certain teams. Right? It's not like he's. I'm a delusional Laker fan that can see the writing on the wall, and that right.
NBA freaks out. Luka and Austin expose LeBron's agent. LeBron speechless. It was supposed to be a private dinner between friends, a meal between two of the game's biggest stars and the agent who wields shadowy power over an entire league. But a single leaked recording has just blown the doors off the NBA's most powerful back room. Luka Dončić and Austin Reaves, in a stunning moment of unfiltered candor, have exposed the secret machinations of LeBron James' agent Rich Paul, and their revelations have left the king himself paralyzed in a silence more terrifying than any outburst. The setting was an upscale, secluded restaurant in Dallas, Texas. A private room booked under a generic LLC hosted what was meant to be a discreet, off-the-record dinner. In attendance, Dallas Mavericks superstar Luka Dončić, Los Angeles Lakers guard Austin Reaves, and the most powerful agent in basketball, Rich Paul of Klutch Sports. The topic, ostensibly, was the future, Reaves' evolving role, Luka's long-term vision for winning, the landscape of the league. What no one at the table knew was that a voice-activated recording device left accidentally in Reaves' jacket pocket from an earlier media day was still running. The device captured every word. The leak did not come from a journalist, but was anonymously uploaded to a fringe sports gossip forum. The audio, though slightly muffled, was unmistakably their voices. The conversation began casually, but after a few drinks, with the veil of privacy seemingly absolute, it turned breathtakingly candid. Luka, his Slovenian accent thick with frustration, was heard saying, "It's not about the game anymore, man. It's about the packages. You call my GM, you don't talk about me. You talk about your other client. You say, if you want to make a move for my guy, you have to take this other contract too." He was referencing the widely rumored but never proven packaging of Klutch Sports clients in trades and free agency, a practice that could border on conflict of interest. Then Austin Reaves, perhaps emboldened, chimed in. His tone was less angry, more awestruck and concerned. "It's true. When I was a free agent, the calls didn't come from teams first. They came from Rich. He laid out the map. He said, this team has space, but they need to move this other Klutch guy first. Your deal gets done when his deal gets done. It wasn't about the best fit for me. It was about the best move for the portfolio." The most explosive moment came when Luka, referencing LeBron James directly, said, "Everyone knows who really runs the Lakers. It's not the coach, it's not the GM, it's not even the owner. It is the agent of the best player, and that agent's job is not to make the Lakers better. His job is to make his client's situation better. Sometimes it is the same. Often it is not." The audio ended there, but it was enough. Within an hour, the clip had been verified, cleaned, and was rocketing across the internet. It wasn't an accusation from an outsider. It was a first-hand private confirmation from two active, respected players of the open secret of Rich Paul's influence, and it painted LeBron not as a singular genius, but as the epicenter of an agent-driven power structure that allegedly manipulated teams and rosters from the shadows. The NBA, built on the illusion of competitive balance and front office control, was freaking out, and all eyes turned to the man at the center of the storm, LeBron James, who had just heard his closest business partner and the engine of his off-court empire.
Clear what he was at least trying
No,
to do.
I mean separation is in the eye of the beholder.
Sure.
I'm saying he attempted to separate himself.
Right. You can't lead horses to waters. I mean, you can't make them drink. You can lead them there. LeBron says, quote, "I think you all know by now Rich is his own man, and what Rich says is not a direct reflection of me."
See, that's bullshit, bro.
No. If this was a while back, I'd have went with it. Today, we know better. We know better, bro. We know better.
Yeah, the fix is not in, bro.
Yes, it is, bro.
I'm not going, bro.
The leaked conversation provided a rare, raw glossary for the shadowy mechanics of modern NBA power. Luka and Austin didn't use complex legalese. They used plain, damning terms that every fan could understand. First, they spoke of the packages or the portfolio. This was the core allegation. They described Rich Paul not just as an agent negotiating for individual clients, but as a portfolio manager making moves to benefit the collective value and placement of his entire roster of Klutch Sports clients. In this model, a player's free agency or trade demand isn't an isolated event. It's a transaction designed to also create a landing spot, a salary dump, or a roster slot for another Klutch client. The player's best individual basketball interest can become secondary to the financial and strategic interests of the agency's broader ecosystem. When Luka said, "You have to take this other contract too," he was alleging that teams are presented with bundled deals, a form of unspoken coercion that distorts fair team building. Second, Austin Reaves outlined the pre-negotiated map. He revealed that his free agency wasn't an open market process where multiple teams bid. Instead, he described a preordained path laid out by Paul, contingent on the movement of other Klutch assets. This suggests a stunning level of centralized control, where the agent doesn't just react to the market, but actively engineers it by choreographing multiple transactions across different teams to achieve a desired outcome for his stable of players. It turns the league's free agency period from a competitive bidding war into a centrally planned operation. Finally, Luka delivered the most politically explosive charge: who really runs the Lakers? He stated plainly that the agent of the franchise's best player holds more operational power than the team's own basketball executives. This alleges that Rich Paul, through his direct line to and immense influence over LeBron James, effectively has veto power over roster decisions, coaching hires, and potentially even draft selections. The front office's job, in this view, becomes less about constructing a team and more about accommodating the demands of the agency that controls their superstar. This turns the traditional team hierarchy on its head, suggesting the Lakers are less a basketball franchise and more a client state of Klutch Sports. These weren't just complaints about tough negotiation. They were specific allegations of a systemic, agent-driven power structure that operates parallel to, and sometimes in conflict with, the official governance of NBA teams. The portfolio had been named, and its manager had just been outed in a private conversation that confirmed the league's worst fears about where true power now resides.
That is, I understand the idea behind, okay, Austin and Luka, a couple of inferior athletes, not a great long-term fit in terms of just the athletic parts of the game. Or in the short term, LeBron's looking great. He's been playing at that third team All-NBA level for a month now. And Luka in his last...
I remember thinking at the time that the Jets...
Hold on.
Yeah. All right.
I got to answer this.
Go ahead, do it.
The leak triggered an immediate, multi-layered panic across the NBA ecosystem. The reactions were not just about the content, but about the terrifying precedent of such a private conversation becoming public. The response from Klutch Sports and Rich Paul was a firestorm of denial and legal threat. Within 2 hours, Klutch issued a blistering statement. The illegally recorded, heavily edited audio is a malicious fabrication. It represents a criminal violation of privacy and a deliberate attempt to smear the reputation of Rich Paul and Klutch Sports Group. We have already engaged legal counsel and will be pursuing all available actions against the parties responsible for this fraud. The statement notably did not deny the substance of the specific claims about packaging or influence, focusing instead on the illegality of the recording, a legal shield that did little to address the damning narrative now public. From the NBA League office, this was a nightmare scenario. The audio alleged systemic manipulation that struck at the heart of competitive integrity, the very balance the league office is tasked with protecting. Sources indicated emergency calls were made to both the Mavericks and Lakers front offices, demanding clarity. The league's public relations team was silent, a telling and deafening absence. Privately, executives were reportedly horrified. The recording didn't just accuse one agent of sharp practices. It suggested the league's superstar-driven economy had created a rogue power center that operated outside of and above the rulebook. An investigation was not just likely, it was mandatory. But investigating Klutch meant investigating LeBron James by proxy, a political minefield of epic proportions. The players at the center of the storm, Luka Dončić and Austin Reaves, were thrust into a maelstrom they did not choose. Their camps scrambled into damage control. Reaves representatives released a vague, carefully worded statement about private conversations being meant to stay private and respect for all parties involved, clearly trying to de-escalate without confirming or denying the audio's authenticity. Luka, notoriously press-shy, offered no public comment. The pressure on them was immense and contradictory. They were simultaneously hailed as brave truth-tellers by some and vilified as irresponsible gossips by others. They had inadvertently declared war on the most powerful agency in the sport and potentially alienated the most powerful player, all because of a forgotten recording device. Their next public appearances would be under a microscope, with every word parsed for hints of validation or retraction.
Go to LeBron James. If you look at this roster, they are not full yet. They are not a complete team, championship contending team. We understand everyone saying, well, when we have Luka Dončić and LeBron James, them two alone can help you lead this Lakers team to a championship. But you got to have a lot of key pieces on this Lakers team in order to strive for a championship.
The conversation of leaving Cleveland, going to LA. Whose idea was that?
The conversation was pretty simple in terms of what is it that you want to do? If you want to stay here, let's stay here. But if you want to go somewhere.
In the eye of this hurricane stood LeBron James. For over 2 decades, he has been the most vocal, the most calculated, the most politically astute superstar in modern sports. In every crisis, he has had a statement, a tweet, a post, a carefully crafted media response. But in the 48 hours following the leak, LeBron's silence was not just notable, it was a roaring, terrifying vacuum. His social media feeds, usually a curated stream of business, family, and motivational messaging, went dark. No posts, no stories, no cryptic emojis. His public schedule, which included a planned community event, was quietly canceled due to unforeseen circumstances. To those who know the LeBron James apparatus, this was the most alarming signal of all. This was not the silence of a man ignoring gossip. This was the silence of a king whose throne had just been revealed to have a structural flaw, a leader in a war room assessing catastrophic damage. This speechlessness was a multi-layered crisis. One layer was the raw, personal sting of betrayal. The words came from Austin Reaves, a teammate he had mentored, championed, and helped make wealthy, and from Luka Dončić, a peer he has publicly anointed as a future face of the league. To hear his trusted inner circle and a respected rival confirm the darkest whispers about his own operation in a private setting could be personally and professionally devastating. It wasn't an attack from an enemy, it was a confession from within the castle walls. Another layer was a profound strategic impasse. The leak directly implicated his closest confidant and business partner, Rich Paul, as the alleged mastermind of a portfolio operation. LeBron was trapped. He could not defend the alleged practices without potentially endorsing behavior that skirts NBA rules and infuriates other owners. Yet he could not condemn or distance himself from Rich Paul without destroying his most loyal ally and the architect of his off-court empire. Any statement would force him to choose between his friend/business partner and the sanctity of the league's rules, a no-win scenario. Finally, and perhaps most critically, the silence suggested a realization of legacy erosion. Luka's claim that Paul really runs the Lakers threatened to dismantle the narrative of LeBron's Lakers chapter. It reframed his return not as a heroic restoration of a fallen kingdom, but as a sophisticated corporate takeover by his agent. It painted his championships and influence not as earned through leadership, but as engineered through backroom portfolio management. To speak would be to give that devastating frame oxygen. His silence was the only possible, if terrifying, response, a recognition that for once, his legendary control over the narrative had been utterly
Rich, your book, Lucky Me, is out. I thought it was really interesting. It's as far as I can see, prior to the epilogue, there's maybe one mention of LeBron and a couple mentions in the epilogue of LeBron. This book is about you and your upbringing and not even your career, just like how you got.
Yeah, I thought it was very conflicting because as an agent, you know, what you say holds a lot of value and weight.
Absolutely.
The implications of the leak extended far beyond the immediate scandal, forcing a painful, systemic self-examination across the entire NBA. This wasn't just about one agent or one superstar. It was about the monster the league itself had created. In boardrooms across the league, a quiet panic was turning into revolt. The alleged packaging of clients and the assertion of an agent's control over a flagship franchise like the Lakers was no longer a rumor. It was a first-hand account. For years, owners had grumbled privately about the power of super agencies, but now they had a smoking gun. The leak gave a powerful, united voice to their deepest fear, that they were no longer the ultimate decision-makers for their billion-dollar investments. Expect intense, behind-the-scenes pressure on the league office to investigate and, more importantly, to create new rules, Rich Paul rules, aimed at limiting agent influence, potentially regulating how many clients from one agency can be on a team, or outlawing the very packaging Luka described. The power balance, tilted so far towards star players and their representatives, was now facing a fierce and organized counterpush from capital. Simultaneously, the player-agent relationship fractured. The trust between players and their representatives is sacrosanct. This leak violently breached that trust on a global scale. Players not represented by Klutch looked at their own agents with new suspicion. Are you making moves for me or for your portfolio? Klutch clients themselves were put in an impossible position, forced to publicly defend their representation while privately wondering if the allegations were true. The entire agent community was now under a microscope, their backroom dealings exposed as a potential conflict of interest rather than pure advocacy. The foundational player-agent bond, based on absolute confidentiality and aligned interest, was now publicly questioned. Most profoundly, the leak threatened to rewrite the LeBron James legacy narrative. His career, especially his Lakers chapter, has been...
For me to tell me, pick 3 names out of a hat, can't?
Right. Right.
So, but this is the mentality. I watch it. And a guy like LJ, you know, he's going to get the short end of the stick for a number of reasons. I've been a part of 5 generations of the NBA.
The dust from the initial explosion will settle, but the landscape of the NBA is forever changed. The leaked conversation did not create a new truth. It simply stripped away the last layers of deniability, exposing the raw power dynamics that have been the league's true engine for years. We are now in the era of the unmasked kingdom. The fundamental relationship between fans and the sport has been altered. The league can no longer convincingly sell the simple fairy tale of pure competition. The curtain has been pulled back to reveal the pulleys and levers, the agent portfolios, the bundled negotiations, the shadow governance. The game on the court remains a breathtaking display of skill, but the construction of the rosters is now widely understood as a complex, often ruthless corporate chess match. The NBA must now operate in the harsh light of this exposed reality, where the term player empowerment will be met with the public's knowing understanding of its true mechanics, agent-led empire building. This incident will force a brutal official reckoning on agent power. The league office, pressured by furious owners, will have no choice but to act. Expect a formal investigation, not just into this dinner, but into the broader practices of player representation. The result will likely be a new, stricter set of rules, a clutch clause in everything but name, aimed at limiting how agents can bundle clients, communicate with teams, and wield collective influence. The Wild West era of super agencies is facing its first major regulatory threat. The agents, who became kings in the player empowerment era, may now see their kingdoms circumscribed by the very league they learned to manipulate. Finally, for LeBron James, this is a defining late-career crucible. His legacy now has a before and after. Before the leak, he was the undisputed architect of his own destiny. After, there will always be a whispered question. How much was the player and how much was the portfolio? His unprecedented silence in the face of the scandal speaks volumes. It is the sound of a man who understands that some truths, once spoken, cannot be shouted down. His path forward is to play with a fury that makes the off-court noise irrelevant, to win in a way that reminds the world that even the most sophisticated backroom operation needs a transcendent talent on the floor to succeed. The empire has been exposed. Now, the emperor must remind everyone why he was crowned in the first place. So, what is the final verdict? Were Luka Dončić and Austin Reaves courageous truth-tellers who exposed a corrosive system, or were they irresponsible gossips whose private venting breached trust and destabilized the league? Is Rich Paul a visionary pioneer who maximized his client's power, or is he the orchestrator of a portfolio scheme that undermines competitive balance? And LeBron's silence, is it the prudent calm of a king under siege, or the damning admission that the allegations are true and he has no defense? The kingdom has been unmasked. The power brokers have been named. The game goes on, but now we all know what the game really is. Where do you stand? Was this exposure necessary or destructive? Sound off in the comments below. For the deepest analysis of the real power structures in sports, subscribe and hit the bell. We don't watch the game,